It begins not with flashing lights or roaring jets, but with silence. High above the desert, the ocean, or the jagged mountains of northern Mexico, a sensor pings. A dot appears on a radar screen. It's not a commercial flight, not logged on any aviation registry, and not squawking identification codes. It is small, fast, and flying low. The signature of a cartel jet loaded with millions in cash or drugs, slipping through shadows where rules are meant to be broken. This is where the U.S. air defense system comes alive, weaving radar, spy planes, and intelligence into a net that stretches from the southern border to the deep skies of Latin America. What happens next isn't improvisation. It's a choreographed hunt designed to ensure that no matter how stealthy the cartel thinks it is, the United States is watching. The stakes are brutal. Every jet carries more than money or cocaine. It carries cartel lifeblood. A single failure to track one of these planes could translate into a spike of violence in a Mexican border town or overdoses in an American suburb. That's why the system is relentless, designed to peel away every layer of deception and expose cartel aircraft the moment they breach the invisible walls of restricted airspace. At the heart of the operation are the eyes in the sky, the Navy's P-8 Poseidon, the Air Force's U-2 Dragon Lady, and the RC-135 Rivet Joint. Each aircraft is a flying fortress of surveillance technology. The P-8, originally built for anti-submarine warfare, is repurposed to scan air and land, its radar sweeping wide arcs that detect even the faintest echoes of a low-flying jet trying to hug the terrain. The U-2, a relic of the Cold War that refuses to die, soars at altitudes where it can photograph license plates from the stratosphere and track movement far beyond the border. It sees with a clarity that renders secrecy obsolete. And then there's the Rivet Joint, perhaps the most feared of them all, a plane that doesn't just see, it listens, intercepting cartel communications, locking onto frequencies, and pulling intelligence from the static of radios and encrypted chatter. Together, these planes form a triad of detection, circling in long, patient orbits, persistent even when the smugglers think no one is watching. But aircraft alone are not enough. Ground-based radar systems dot the southern United States, their dishes sweeping the skies with tireless precision. These radars are tuned to catch the very tactics cartels rely on: low altitude, slow speed, and unregistered flight paths. They don't just track. They feed into the larger intelligence picture, stitching a narrative of where a jet took off, how it's moving, and where it might try to land.
Before we get to that, I need your help. I'm trying to hit 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I need your help. So I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe and help me out.
The smuggler's strategy of flying under the radar is, ironically, exactly what radar is designed to counter when deployed in multiple overlapping systems. The intelligence war is just as important as the technical one. The Rivet Joint's signals intelligence capability isn't a passive ear, it's an active disruption of secrecy. By intercepting cartel communications, analysts can piece together flight plans before wheels even leave the ground. In some cases, intercepted chatter has revealed the exact cargo on board or the intended landing strip, turning surveillance into preemption. What they spoke in whispers, the system broadcasts in blaring detail. This is loss aversion at its highest stakes. Missing a single signal could mean an aircraft full of contraband crossing undetected. But catching it in time means stripping the smugglers of millions and cutting off a supply chain at its root. Persistent surveillance is the key. Cartel jets don't move on schedules, they move on opportunity. That's why spy planes don't just fly missions. They haunt the skies for days and weeks, cycling crews and orbiting border sectors. From U.S. airspace, they can watch the Baja Peninsula, spot clandestine runways carved into desert flats, and monitor takeoffs in real time. Persistence turns luck into inevitability. No matter how unpredictable a smuggler's departure, the system is already waiting. Drones add another layer, silent and almost invisible. MQ-9 Reaper drones, some flown under CIA authority, prowl the skies inside Mexican airspace with Mexican cooperation or under covert parameters. Their endurance is unmatched. They can loiter for 24 hours watching a suspected airstrip, following a jet from its climb to its descent. Reapers bring something even manned aircraft cannot: proximity without presence. Their infrared sensors track heat signatures, their cameras zoom in on markings, and their feeds stream directly to intelligence centers where analysts make decisions in real time. For cartel pilots, the sky may seem empty, but the truth is chilling. Something is always overhead. All this data, radar echoes, intercepted signals, drone feeds, aerial photography, funnels into command centers where intelligence analysts connect dots at blistering speed. Here, the system achieves its true strength: integration. A blip on a radar becomes a heat signature on a drone camera. A garbled radio call intercepted by the rivet joint confirms intentions. A Poseidon locks onto the aircraft's movement as it drifts closer to U.S. restricted airspace. This isn't just observation, it's orchestration, with multiple agencies including the Air Force, Navy, CIA, CBP, and Homeland Security feeding into one coordinated response. Information becomes action, action becomes interception. The emotional gravity of this system is not lost on those who operate it. Every successful track and intercept doesn't just seize contraband, it dismantles influence. Imagine the psychological blow to a cartel boss learning that a jet loaded with cash never made it, that its route was known before it even left the runway. The paranoia of the cartels grows with every loss. For the U.S., each tracked jet is one less artery pumping corruption north and chaos south. The public display of flight trackers and Pentagon reports confirms the clear purpose of these planes. The urgency is constant. Cartel innovation is relentless, but the layered U.S. response adapts just as fast. Analysts rotate shifts to maintain 24/7 coverage. In this arms race, hesitation is defeat. The moment an unauthorized jet appears, time compresses. If the jet crosses into restricted airspace, decisions are made within seconds. Scramble fighters, notify law enforcement, prepare for interception. For the cartel pilot, the sky goes from quiet freedom to suffocating enclosure. Every mile forward is another mile deeper into a trap already laid. An unmarked jet, cutting low across the borderlands, looks like a private plane, but the silence of its radio and the evasive line of its flight path betray it.
Before we get to that, I need your help. I'm trying to hit 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I need your help. So I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe and help me out.
It is a narco-jet, betting everything on slipping unseen into U.S. airspace. What it cannot outrun is the sudden shadow that forms alongside. An F-16 Fighting Falcon, ordered not to destroy, but to compel. This is not random. It is the result of protocols that regulate every movement, every radio call, and every gesture, giving the interceptor the authority to force a narco jet to land, or, if all else fails, the authorization to shoot it down. The first step is identification. The F-16 approaches in calculated arcs, close enough to see the markings and even the expressions of the pilots, but never so close as to risk collision. The pilot is not just flying a jet. He is a witness and a message in steel that the United States has noticed. Once identity is suspected, the language of the intercept begins with movements codified by the International Civil Aviation Organization. The F-16 rocks its wings, a deliberate gesture that says, "You have been intercepted." Its position shifts just ahead and slightly above, urging the smaller plane to follow. These are not improvisations. They are rehearsed moves drilled into memory. The rules demand more than gestures. They demand communication. The interceptor switches radios to emergency frequencies and calls directly. "You are being intercepted. Contact air traffic control immediately." When there is silence in response, the escalation begins. The F-16 maneuvers more aggressively, crossing the nose of the narco-jet, its wings rocking sharper this time. Flares streak from the fighter, bright bursts of fire that scream a warning more visceral than any radio call. Every move is carefully recorded to prove that escalation followed exact rules. The specter of lethal force enters the cockpit. The fighter pilot can only fire under the narrowest conditions. If the intercepted plane poses an imminent threat to public safety or national security, and only after every lesser measure has failed. The narco-jet that simply carries cocaine is not shot from the sky unless its path threatens to crash into a city or a critical installation. Destruction is the tool of last resort. The pilot does not act alone. Orders climb from NORAD command centers, from FAA coordination rooms, sometimes reaching to the highest levels of National Defense Authority. This hierarchy ensures that force is not triggered by fear or haste, but by necessity. The traffickers may fear the F-16's guns, but the world must trust they are fired only under absolute justification. This restraint is the system's true strength. The psychological effect on traffickers is enormous. A narco-jet may feel invincible while skimming the radar horizon, but the moment a fighting falcon appears at its wingtip, the illusion collapses. The flares, the rocking wings, the silent pressure of a supersonic shadow, they force a decision no smuggler wants to make: surrender or gamble with death. Most comply, descending to a designated runway where law enforcement waits. The F-16 banks away once the chain of custody is secured, but not every encounter is clean. Some narco-jets dive low to escape radar or cut into foreign airspace. A few, desperate and reckless, ignore every signal until the F-16 positions itself with guns armed, a gesture that says the next choice will end everything. In those moments, the rules of engagement strain, but they hold, and if a shot must be fired, it is never spontaneous. It is the last step in a staircase of warnings. Behind the spectacle lies an infrastructure of doctrine. The FAA publishes intercept procedures for civilian pilots so no one can claim ignorance. NORAD runs simulations, and international agreements embed standards into every action. This consistency ensures recognition and shields against claims of arbitrary force. The stakes are immense. Narco-jets carry tons of cocaine worth hundreds of millions. Each successful intercept is not only cargo seized, but networks disrupted, financial losses imposed, and cartel confidence shaken. The flip side is clear. A failed intercept risks drugs flooding into U.S. streets, fueling addiction, violence, and corruption. This is why protocols are built with precision and restraint. They must work under pressure every time, because the cost of failure is counted in more than kilos. The pilots who fly these intercepts understand the razor's edge they inhabit. They must make split-second judgments while tethered to layers of command oversight, carrying the burden that one wrong decision could mean shooting down a plane that was not what it seemed. The protocols reveal a paradox: overwhelming military power harnessed not to kill, but to control. A machine designed for dogfights is disciplined into a tool of law enforcement aimed at safety. The traffickers know the fighter has the power to end them instantly, but they also know its pilot is bound to signals and restraint. That knowledge makes compliance the smart choice. And compliance is the true weapon. The story always ends the same way. The narco-jet, once flying free and invisible, sits silent on a runway, surrounded by armed agents. What forced the jet down was not just firepower, but the layered choreography of identification, signals, and warnings. The protocols ensure that U.S. skies remain guarded not by chaos, but by controlled, disciplined force. Cartels can run, but they cannot escape the rules that bind them into compliance, one intercept at a time. When a drug cartel's aircraft is seized, the drama doesn't end when the engines stop. It has only just begun. These planes are not just flying machines, they are vaults in the sky, carrying evidence that can expose billion-dollar networks. Every compartment and hidden panel is a potential key to unraveling cartel command structures. When agents climb aboard, their mission is clear: extract the truth without leaving room for doubt in a courtroom. The search and recovery process is not casual improvisation. It is a forensic, methodical, high-stakes operation. Agents search cockpits, passenger seats, luggage holds, even false panels concealed within floorboards. Cartel aircraft are often retrofitted with hidden compartments designed to evade quick inspections, but DEA protocols demand patience and precision. Each discovery, whether a duffel bag of cash, a ledger written in code, or a sleek satellite phone, must be documented, tagged, and preserved. The integrity of the search is as important as the items found, because any misstep could be exploited in court to suppress evidence. Among the most valuable targets are encrypted satellite phones. For cartels, these devices are lifelines, allowing communication outside the reach of normal cell networks using layers of encryption. To a cartel operative, that phone is protection. To the DEA, it is opportunity. When one is seized, it is treated not as a gadget, but as a treasure chest of intelligence. Forensic specialists immediately secure it in protective containers to shield it from remote wiping signals. The delicate process of extraction then begins. Unlike standard cell phones, encrypted satellite devices are hardened against intrusion. Forensic teams employ advanced methods: logical extraction to pull data directly from memory, physical extraction to create a bit-for-bit copy, or even chip-off procedures. Each approach requires immense technical precision, as one wrong command can corrupt data permanently. But with these methods, experts can often recover deleted text strings, GPS logs, or fragments of encrypted chats. Even partial recoveries can be pivotal. A single call timestamp, matched with radar records, can place a pilot in communication with a cartel hub during a drug run. Encryption is a formidable barrier, yet not invincible. Specialized software, sometimes supported by cooperating federal labs, works to bypass or brute force protocols. The goal is always the same: to turn a tool meant to conceal into a pipeline of incriminating truth. What once hid orders and rendezvous coordinates becomes evidence admissible before a judge. Parallel to digital seizures are the physical discoveries: banking ledgers, handwritten notes, flight manifests. To investigators, paper can be as lethal to a cartel as bullets. These ledgers are immediately photographed, logged, and handled with gloves. Analysts pore over them, decoding symbols, tracking transaction notations, and identifying recurring initials. Every entry is cross-referenced against intelligence pulled from devices. If a ledger shows X300K delivered and a phone reveals a call to a Miami number the same day, a financial chain is formed. This integration between physical documents and digital extractions is the true power of aircraft searches. Cartels rely on compartmentalization, but the aircraft ties it together. A pilot's satellite phone can connect to a financier's ledger. A passenger's bag can contain cash and a USB stick with routing instructions. All of this happens under the strictest legal and technical protocols. The DEA knows that every shred of evidence will be contested by defense attorneys, so chain of custody is paramount. Digital evidence is cloned onto forensic images with hashes to prove not a single byte has been altered. Courtroom battles often hinge not on whether evidence exists, but whether it was handled properly. The agent's discipline ensures that when a call log is presented, a jury can trust it has not been tampered with. The operation doesn't stop at seizure. It extends into analysis within specialized DEA forensic labs. These labs combine expertise in mobile device forensics, digital cryptography, and financial intelligence. The recovered intelligence is shared across federal networks, linking with Homeland Security, Treasury investigators, and international partners. What began as a single aircraft seizure can trigger cascading indictments across continents. There is urgency in this process. Every hour lost is an hour in which operatives can vanish or laundered funds can be shifted. That is why agents prioritize rapid yet precise forensic work, pushing for actionable intelligence that can lead to follow-on raids before the network realigns. The adrenaline of the seizure must be matched by the persistence of the analysis. One aircraft can carry not just drugs, but the connective tissue of entire trafficking syndicates. If agents recover a ledger showing deposits into coded accounts and pair it with decrypted calls, prosecutors can link mid-level operatives to kingpins. For cartel pilots, the aircraft is supposed to be a vehicle of power and freedom, but once seized, it becomes their undoing. The same technology they rely on to shield their operations becomes the very tool that prosecutors wield to dismantle them. In the end, the process reflects a simple truth. Modern cartels thrive on secrecy, but every secret leaves a trace. Aircraft searches reveal those traces and transform them into evidence that speaks louder than any confession. A single aircraft loaded with millions in drugs or cash slices through the night sky. For the cartel, it represents lifeblood. But when that aircraft is intercepted, its cargo seized, its pilots arrested, and its hidden devices examined, the loss is more than material. It's a wound that bleeds money, exposes secret corridors, and rattles the very foundations of cartel influence. Interdicting cartel aircraft devastates their finances and dismantles their networks, not just because of what is lost in that moment, but because of the ripple effect each seizure unleashes across their operations. The first impact is brutally simple: loss of massive cash and drugs. Cartel aircraft are flying vaults, carrying payloads that can reach tens of millions in cocaine or bulk currency. Unlike maritime shipments, air shipments are prized for their speed and precision. When authorities bring one down, it's an immediate hit to cartel liquidity. That liquidity funds bribery and pays armed enforcers. Stripping it away leaves cartels scrambling to plug financial gaps. What took them years to build took moments to dismantle. But the loss of drugs and money is only the surface. The deeper damage comes from the exposure of trafficking routes. Every intercepted aircraft is a roadmap laid bare. Authorities gain precise intelligence on the corridors used, low-altitude flight paths through jungles, and clandestine airstrips. These are carefully engineered arteries, often greased with bribes. Once exposed, they lose their secrecy. The intelligence gained from aircraft interdictions often fuels indictments against high-ranking cartel leaders, exposing the structure far beyond the seized shipment. The blow doesn't stop there. Every interdiction forces cartels to adapt. Routes once considered secure are now compromised. Aircraft types once trusted are now flagged. Each shift costs money and increases risk. The overhead balloons, but the uncertainty grows faster. Interdictions don't just inflict a single wound, they steadily raise the cost of survival. What's less visible, but equally damaging, is the erosion of trust. Suppliers and transporters cooperate because they believe the cartel can guarantee safe passage. But when aircraft are repeatedly intercepted, doubts spread. Reliability is tarnished. Then comes the domino effect on related criminal activities. Seizing a plane doesn't just eliminate its cargo, it stalls every connected transaction. Launderers receive less money, arms suppliers see delayed payments, and corrupt officials risk exposure. Cartel ecosystems function like interlocking gears. Stop one, and the others grind harder until the machine falters. An aircraft interdiction is a strategic disruption of the criminal economy. The psychology of interdiction is as devastating as the logistics. Cartels thrive on an aura of control, projecting an image of inevitability. Every intercepted aircraft shatters that illusion. The sight of seized cocaine bricks or confiscated cash undermines the myth of invincibility. For traffickers, it's humiliation. For communities living under cartel shadow, it's a signal that resistance has teeth. The intelligence harvested goes far beyond one night's operation. Mapping intercepted flight paths creates a living blueprint of cartel logistics. Banking ledgers expose financial trails that feed into indictments. Communication devices reveal cross-border alliances. This isn't speculation, it's confirmed linkage. Each seized plane becomes a keystone in dismantling sprawling networks. Urgency drives both sides. Cartels rush to adapt before authorities exploit new intelligence. Law enforcement pushes to capitalize before traffickers shut down compromised networks. The immediacy of lost cargo creates panic, while the slow burn of exposed intelligence extends the damage for months or years. This dual pressure, instant loss combined with long-term vulnerability, is why aircraft interdictions cut so deep. For cartels, the lesson is brutal. Air smuggling is fast, but fragile. Every flight is a gamble. When it fails, it doesn't just fail. It detonates across their system. For law enforcement, the lesson is clear. Every interdiction is leverage, both financially and strategically. The battle isn't just about seizing drugs. It's about unraveling trust, exposing routes, and harvesting intelligence that cripples networks. And that is the enduring impact. Each seized plane is a crack in the armor. Each exposed route a doorway into deeper networks. Over time, those cracks widen until what once seemed untouchable begins to collapse under its own exposed weight. Actionable intelligence gathered from seized devices is shared between the DEA, FBI, and Homeland Security through interagency cooperation frameworks that exist for one reason: to make sure no crucial piece of evidence slips through the cracks. These devices hold the secrets of entire criminal enterprises, routes, payments, associates, safe houses, and coded instructions. The challenge is not just extracting that data, but ensuring it flows seamlessly to the right people, in the right agencies, at the right time. Without that flow, investigations stall, networks adapt, and opportunities vanish. That is why the United States has built a tight, secure system that forces cooperation. It is survival against cartels and organized crime. The backbone of this process is secure intelligence systems. The DEA relies on the El Paso Intelligence Center's secure portal. The FBI maintains law enforcement online, and Homeland Security uses the Homeland Security Information Network. These are fortified databases with strict permission levels, ensuring an analyst in one agency can request data from another without compromising sensitive investigations. Beyond the systems, intelligence is funneled into fusion centers and collaboration hubs. When a phone seized in a Miami raid contains references to a warehouse in Chicago, the fusion center makes sure that information reaches the right city task force within hours, not weeks. Cartels do not respect jurisdictional boundaries, so neither can investigators. Cooperation is cemented through formal protocols and agreements. DEA, FBI, and Homeland Security operate under memorandums that dictate who handles what. This clarity prevents duplication and ensures accountability. In high-stakes environments, where one misstep can destroy months of work, these protocols are the guardrails that keep cooperation disciplined and lawful. Access to actionable intelligence is tightly monitored. Agents must pass extensive background checks and receive approvals from supervisors. These controls ensure intelligence is used with precision and integrity. Intelligence doesn't sit idle. It becomes part of integrated analysis and task forces. A single seized device might reveal encrypted payment routes, foreign bank transfers, and aliases. Alone, one agency could chase fragments. Together, they can piece those fragments into a complete picture. This integration is why task forces have become the spearhead of U.S. counter-cartel operations. They move faster, strike harder, and leave fewer gaps for traffickers to exploit. Coordination is held together by secure communication channels. The framework of systems, centers, agreements, vetting, And integration is not just bureaucracy. It is the engine that transforms seized devices into weapons against organized crime. A phone captured in Texas can lead to a raid in New York, all within days. That is the payoff of interagency cooperation. This system also responds to one of the most dangerous threats: criminal adaptation. Cartels evolve constantly, shifting tactics and routes. But by sharing intelligence from seized devices, every adaptation is spotted faster, every tactic countered sooner. The result is not just reaction, but anticipation. The framework enables law enforcement to disrupt networks before shipments move or money transfers finalize. A DEA officer breaking open an encrypted phone knows the intelligence won't vanish into bureaucratic black holes. An FBI analyst knows that when they trace a suspicious financial ledger, Homeland Security will receive it and act. And for the public, this cooperation means safer streets and disrupted networks. The lesson is clear. Actionable intelligence from seized devices is only as powerful as the system that moves it. The interagency framework transforms them into dismantled networks and collapsed criminal enterprises. As cartels adapt, the framework of DEA, FBI, and Homeland Security working together is the shield and spear of America's defense against transnational crime. Because in this fight, intelligence is not information. Intelligence is action. And action requires trust, structure, and relentless cooperation. Cartel leaders hate the sound of a jet being intercepted because it is not just cargo lost. It is humiliation broadcast for the world to see. Every time an aircraft packed with drugs or cash is seized, the myth of cartel invincibility cracks. These operations do not merely confiscate contraband, they stage a public spectacle of weakness, stripping away the aura of untouchability that cartels cultivate. The image of a sleek jet grounded on a runway, its cargo displayed for cameras, becomes a weapon more powerful than bullets. It shows the world, and cartel members themselves, that leadership cannot shield their assets, and that the skies are no longer theirs to dominate. The exposure is devastating. Cartels thrive on secrecy, but aircraft seizures rip away that shield in the most visible way possible. Footage of military jets escorting smugglers circulates online. The once hidden arteries of cartel wealth are laid bare in full view. For organizations obsessed with projecting strength, this spectacle is corrosive. It takes what should have been a triumph and flips it into public embarrassment. Every exposed failure magnifies the reality that these organizations bleed just like anyone else when pressure is applied. The display of authority is deliberate. When U.S. aircraft intercept cartel planes, it sends a message that no distance is safe. It tells them, we see you, we can touch you, and you cannot fly above the law. For the pilot seeing fighter jets flanking their wings, the symbolism is unmistakable. In that moment, their employer's power shrinks to nothing compared to the authority of the state bearing down on them. Arrests amplify this impact. Every mugshot of a captured pilot undermines the promise of loyalty and security. These are high-profile prosecutions that pierce the public consciousness. Each trial becomes a story of betrayal. The cartel couldn't shield its own. For cartel soldiers watching, the message is unavoidable. If the pilots can be exposed and punished, so can you. Recruitment of pilots becomes an uphill battle. The risk has grown into near certainty. Pilots now face not just the possibility, but the probability of capture or death. Every operation intercepted makes recruitment harder, retention weaker, and desperation greater. The pool of willing pilots shrinks while the costs of persuading them skyrocket. Intelligence exploitation adds a deeper wound. Every seized aircraft carries data, phones, GPS logs, flight plans. When authorities publicize that these materials have been cracked, it sends shockwaves through cartel hierarchies. Suddenly, no one knows who to trust. Was the pilot careless? Did surveillance penetrate deeper than expected? The exposure of ledgers makes internal suspicion fester. A culture of paranoia replaces cohesion. The psychological impact of repeated failures cannot be overstated. Cartels rely on fear and respect to maintain order, and both are eroded when aircraft after aircraft falls into enemy hands. The aura of power that cartels carefully build is fragile, and nothing breaks it faster than public, undeniable failure. The spectacle of loss echoes louder than whispers of past victories. Every interception is a strategic blow far beyond the physical cargo. The drugs lost matter, but the image of weakness matters more. Interdictions that are public, visual, and repeated disrupt the cartel narrative that more will always come. They plant seeds of doubt, they replace inevitability with vulnerability. They turn cartel aircraft from symbols of reach and sophistication into emblems of defeat. The process is cumulative. One intercepted jet is a headline. 10 become a trend. Dozens over years become a reputation-destroying reality. With every failure, cartels lose face, money, and manpower. The humiliation multiplies with exposure. This is why interdiction operations matter beyond immediate seizures. They are not just tactical moves, but strategic campaigns to dismantle the myth of invincibility. By humiliating leaders, deterring pilots, and exposing intelligence, these operations hollow out the core strength of cartels, their reputation. In a world where power is as much perception as it is profit, perception lost is power lost. Every grounded jet and every captured pilot is a reminder that cartels are not untouchable. The sky they once claimed now belongs to the forces that pursue them. And for the leadership watching their empire bleed credibility, the humiliation cuts deeper than the financial loss. The takeaway is clear. Interdiction in the air achieves more than taking drugs off the market. It undermines the prestige cartels depend on, discourages the very pilots they rely upon, and replaces fear with doubt. Every failed air incursion by a cartel aircraft tightens U.S. aerial dominance over critical drug routes. At first glance, the idea of cartels launching planes across borders feels like a daring gamble, but every failed attempt exposes something bigger. A pattern, a weakness, a confirmation that U.S. airspace is not as porous as traffickers hope. Each takedown and forced landing rewires the balance of power in the skies. These failures accumulate into a steady reinforcement of U.S. control, making the southern border a demonstration of dominance. The first reason lies in intelligence. When a cartel plane is intercepted, the data it leaves behind is priceless. Flight paths reveal preferred routes, and communications outline coordination networks. U.S. agencies pore over these details, feeding them into radar systems and pattern recognition algorithms. Each failed attempt makes the next attempt easier to predict. For cartels, every failure is a leak of secrets that tightens the noose for the future. The second advantage emerges in adaptive surveillance. Cartels rarely repeat identical methods, but U.S. aerial forces are built to adapt faster than traffickers can innovate. If a plane is intercepted at a certain altitude, surveillance radars recalibrate to watch those ranges more closely. If traffickers attempt night flights, thermal imaging and infrared tracking ramp up. Every gap exploited becomes a closed gap, every trick countered by new detection. Failed incursions end in tighter coverage over time, shrinking the map of viable routes. Deterrence is another layer. A pilot who narrowly escapes interception is unlikely to forget the chase. Word travels fast, and each failure amplifies the perceived risk. What once felt like an easy corridor becomes a gauntlet, where survival is uncertain. The more often planes are caught, the higher the psychological cost. Risk transforms into a looming barrier that discourages future attempts. Disruption follows naturally. Failed incursions strip cartels not only of drugs, but of aircraft themselves. Valuable assets purchased at steep cost. A single seized plane can erase millions of dollars of investment. Cartels are then forced into less efficient alternatives, longer land routes, or slower sea shipments. Each adjustment creates more opportunities for U.S. interdiction. What once looked like speed turns into inefficiency, tightening the strategic grip. Every interception asserts publicly that U.S. control extends into the skies above the southern border. When communities see cartel aircraft go down, confidence grows that borders are enforced perimeters. This consolidation builds legitimacy and reinforces the narrative of dominance. Technological superiority underpins this dominance. Cartel aircraft cannot outrun radar networks or outsmart spy planes. U.S. systems sharpen with every engagement, learning how to distinguish smugglers from civilian aircraft. Each failed incursion is a live test that fine-tunes this machinery, ensuring that next time, the kill chain is even faster. Equally critical is coordination. Failed incursions trigger responses across multiple agencies, including Customs and Border Protection, the Department of Defense, and the DEA. Each engagement acts as a rehearsal that makes the next response smoother and faster. The result is a joint network that becomes less fragmented and more seamless, strengthening aerial control incrementally with each cartel failure. The stakes are immense. A successful air incursion can move hundreds of kilograms of narcotics in hours, bypassing land checkpoints and maritime patrols. Each failure prevents not just a single shipment, but the violence and addiction those drugs would have fueled. When a cartel plane is seized, the ripple effect is felt in neighborhoods that never even knew the flight existed. The emotional arc is clear. The danger is airborne, but the solution is visible as U.S. aircraft intercept and enforce. This dominance also taps into national identity. When cartels try to pierce borders from above, it feels like a direct challenge to national control. Each failed attempt reinforces collective confidence that the state still commands its skies. To be informed of these interdictions is to feel included in that defense, to know that the air above one's head is secure. Urgency drives the narrative further. Cartels will adapt, but U.S. aerial dominance adapts faster. Every failed incursion is proof of that race, and the scoreline is clear. With each interception, cartels lose ground. The momentum builds toward inevitability. The skies belong to U.S. enforcement, and traffickers operate only in shrinking margins of desperation. The closure of this arc reveals the core truth. Failed cartel air incursions are cumulative victories that transform attempted breaches into lessons learned and systems sharpened. Every interception denies immediate trafficking success and simultaneously strengthens the machinery of dominance for the future. It is a cycle where failure for traffickers equals reinforcement for defenders, where each loss in the air cements control on the ground. The sky, once seen as an open corridor, has become a proving ground where U.S. superiority tightens with every engagement. And in that tightening, the message is unmistakable. Every failed flight is not just a lost gamble, it is another brick in the wall of aerial dominance securing critical drug routes. The border remains under watch, under control, and beyond the reach of those who would test it.